Welcome to Fireside Chats with... I'm Colin.
I'm Corban.
And you were going to say?
Today, this is where we conversate and we stoke the flames of imagination.
Today's little conversation is who would win in a fight between Sulley from Monsters, Inc. and Shrek from Shrek. There's not really much of a universe he's from, except for there's 4 Shrek movies and there's going to be a 5th by Illumination. Wahoo.
Yeah, it's going to be the reboot, so this rendition of Shrek basically is going to be of the movies themselves, not the reboot that is coming, and that's going to happen.
Because characters in Illumination, I've watched Minions and, what's the other ones, the normal ones. Like the normal, like Minions with the Gru and everything. Despicable Me.
Yes.
Despicable Me. Gru has been hit by a missile, like an ICBM, straight to the dome, and he was just in a hole and crawled back out. So God knows what they're gonna do to him in those renditions, because my God.
And didn't his brother ride that missile, like ride a rocket, when he started creating those other minions?
Oh no, that wasn't his brother. That was his. That was the enemy, El Macho.
Oh,
when he was going to kill him, he was like, "I'm going to strap myself with a bunch of dynamite to a rocket and a shark, and I'm going to fake my death into a volcano." But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to discuss Despicable Me movies and their whole plot lines. That's another video. That's probably never going to happen. But no, back to what we were saying before. Disney's Monsters, Inc. has plenty of monsters in it, but one of the biggest and scariest monsters of that universe is James P. Sullivan. The man stands at like 7'6", 7'9", and weighs almost 1,000 pounds. And then we got Shrek,
who is approximately 9 feet tall, considering different renditions, and approximately 450 pounds, so they're up in terms of Shrek has the height advantage, and Sulley has the weight advantage in the sheer size of being like a beastly animal, while the ogre is more peaceful, more strength behind him that he would like to use. His claws are not as dense as Sulley's, because that's going to be something that Sulley can put scratches in terms of concrete, but Shrek can't make that feat. Shrek, on the other hand, can actually pick up trees and start throwing them with relative ease, depending on what iteration that you would speak. Would you give us more information on your boy Sullivan?
Sulley, Mr. James P. Sullivan. Now that man right there, monster, creature, lion, for some unknown reason is what it said online. Whatever lion is blue, it has pink, purple polka dots and spikes going down its back, is beyond me, but we're not going to get into that whole spiel of how he's a lion. But the man has been able to rip pipes straight off that were bolted into a metal wall with steel bolts, God knows how deep into there, to hold hydraulic pipes, whether they're gas, water, or sewage lines, off the wall, and bend it around a door frame, door handles, to keep water loose to them. Antagonist. No spoil. Here's the spoiler. That man's bad. Don't trust him. He seems nice at first. Don't do it. But no, he is strong enough to, even in his teenage years, to launch a man who weighed about 289 pounds. He launched another monster from his knees bent the whole way to launch him onto a bridge. And he said the man is 289 pounds, and he did that with his legs. With his legs, he did that.
The force of that is incredible,
it's
especially
insane.
to launch this man.
Just to launch a bulbous man into a bridge, God knows how hard. He hit it and flinched, so it wasn't like he just made the hit. He slammed into it. Granted, like, if he can do that with his feet, imagine how, like, what he can do with with the rest of his muscles. If it's just his feet, well, you gotta think those muscles are holding up almost 1,000 pounds. Granted, he may not weigh that much as a teenager, but he's almost the same size, just a little bit smaller. So I'd probably take it down and maybe nearly 500-600 pounds, but that's my speculation.
But keep in mind, guys, this is a Sulley that is in his teenage years, not even enraged, not even full strength. And he's already doing this before we even reach the first movie.
Yeah. Like, that's just, that movie, the whole movie in that thing is Monsters University, and that's just a prequel to Monsters, Inc., and the fire is getting actually hot. which is fire hot. You let me tell you, that's
It's getting bright out
It's
here.
getting bright there, which that's the whole reason. Fireside chats, aren't we smart? But anyway, back to the lovely actual thing of this episode. First episode, ain't we starting out great? But then you got Shrek on the other hand, whose roars are just strong enough to push people back,
Yes.
blow like a wind turbine inside of a house, and just push people away. Regardless, like you said, the man has been hit with trees, picks up trees. But I just feel that Sulley, out of all of those feats from Shrek, has something over him of something. Sully's a big pushover, but we've seen what happens in the movie when Boo, the child, is in danger. He does anything he can to keep her safe.
Yes.
Like,
He's very parental when it comes
oh
to
my
that.
gosh, it's nuts. Like, I want that. I want that now. Give the parental rage to me, and I don't even have kids.
And comparing him to like Shrek, just so that we can get some equal strength feats here. Shrek has also carried Donkey and Fiona. Now, Donkey itself, a well-grown, like, full male donkey, is going to weigh roughly around 400 to 600 pounds, depending. The bigger ones weigh 1,000. We don't know Donkey's actual weight and size, but he held him in one arm, and Fiona, which is about 600 pounds in the other, so the strength does equal out.
Normal Fiona.
That is fair. It is normal Fiona.
Yeah.
So, like, approximately 130 something, maybe 140 before her transformation.
I was gonna say, her before her transformation, my god, you look like you could hit her with a stick from a willow tree and you'd snap her ankle in half, but here she is doing, like, Matrix spins in the movie, whacking people all across the head. Like, how does that even work? Like,
Yeah, going into, like, combat specifics, in terms of Shrek himself, he sparred Fiona on occasions a couple times, even if Fiona from a different dimension. Now, she is less strong than Shrek, the ogre, but it is also said she picked up a boulder and threw it about 20 meters, which it would have taken 3 ogres to lift, and Shrek is equal terms to her in terms of fighting abilities. He's taken hits day after day and always tanked them. Sulley has equal types of combative feats, but I think in terms of martial arts perspective, Shrek might have a little advantage.
I agree on that factor, and I also agree, while Shrek has, while Sulley has a lot of offensive things, he's not really that defensive. Like, he's never been shown to really survive too many things. Granted, he was going down, in the movie there is a scene where they go down, they're trapped in another, like, they're pushed through a door, and now they're trapped with the abominable snowman. He makes a sled out of basically junk, and just launches it down a mountain, snowy covered mountain, mind you, just a sled with skis, and manages to reach approximately 180 miles an hour. We did not do these calculations, what we've read off of different forums and all these other things, but from what I found, he was going approximately 180 miles an hour and then came to a sudden stop when he hit a rock, in which caused him to hit the rock, which we all know what happens, like when you're in a car crash, you hit something, you instantly go from whatever speed you're going to 0. And all that, kinetic energy's got to go somewhere. So he has to be, like, he's basically surviving a huge car crash. Horribly.
So his durability is through the roof.
Yeah, like, that man, and he was launched, the thing flew into pieces, and he launched over and rolled down the mountain afterwards. Now, Shrek, on the other hand, he has some pretty insane defense feats, too. Like what you said before.
Yes, and Shrek has also been, not to be profanity, but in terms of him getting kicked where the sun don't shine, he's taken multiple hits, he's fell on them, and he's shrugged them off with no means. He got shot in his butt by an arrow, and nothing fazed him. He's been hit with swords, he's been hit with axes, he's been hit with even catapulting rocks at him, and he shrugged it off. He's been tail swiped by a dragon. So his defensive feats are measuring up to what Sulley is capable of, which is interesting. So we should also go into, like, speed count. In terms of speed, donkeys, like Donkey in the iteration of the movie, and just regular donkeys, can reach upwards of 40 miles per hour. Meanwhile, Shrek is easily able to catch him, not an enraged, not an out-of-breath Shrek, but a minimal him running, and then he carried Fiona and Donkey for over 20 miles without stopping, and he barely looked fatigued. His endurance and stamina are through the roof on this man. What do you think about Sulley?
Sulley, the man is decently fast, nowhere as near as fast as Shrek. I will say, that man, he moves. As big as that man is, he moves. Now, Sulley, granted, he's not the most fast. Like, one of the biggest feats he ever had was when he was in the one movie, the prequel. He was running after a bus that has already started its ride, and granted, it's in a college campus, so it can't be too fast going, but he managed to run, catch up to the bus when the bus already started leaving, because in the movie, you can see it shows a shot of him just standing there as the bus starts driving away. And he's pretty fast, but nowhere near the likes of Shrek. Shrek is a beast when it comes to speed. Now, I will also give this, in the idea that, like, Sulley is not very fast, he has some dexterity to him. The man has been able to jump through doors, door to door, like the hop to chase Randall, who had the kid, who had Boo, and he's hopping through door to door, just swinging like George of the Jungle on these things, like they're vines. Now, Shrek, that man, I've also seen him shove a sword into the ground to hold the dragon in place through their chains, but Sulley himself has shoved an axe down through concrete. So, and if you think, probably limestone is the composition of most medieval, like, you know,
Lime and brimstone.
yeah, lime, brimstone, all that. Yeah, brimstone, especially brimstone, is extremely brittle due to the heat. But he managed to slam that sword straight down and hold it there. But I think Sulley has them with the axe feat, because if he were to put it through what looks like oh, what's it called? Like warehouse flooring concrete, where it's that flat, sealed, pounded down, and finished off line of new concrete, I think Sulley getting a more wider axe the whole way down into it through Shrek's through maybe brittle limestone, brimstone,
yeah,
whichever. I have a feeling he has a better thrust to his punches. I don't think they don't hit as hard, but the thrust, he can move his arms faster, I believe.
I will state that Shrek did also have a similar strength feat. Now, it is in one of these special editions, but Shrek had taken a bottle, a wine bottle specifically, took it in his hand and threw it through a ship on both ends. The bottle did not break, so it shows how fast this man must have been throwing that.
Yeah, when it went through the boat there, and when you're that christening of the ship, when you're supposed to whack the bottle up, that man threw it through the ship instead of ding, he went right through it. Like it's insane. Like, I will say Shrek is an absolute unit when it comes to strength. The man, and he has all those like abilities and like the games and different renditions of them out of the movies. While with Sulley, we don't really see too many Monsters Inc. games. Like, there was the original one for I think it was the Xbox I saw, and all he really did was he was like punching boxes apart and scratching things and just scaring like fake robot kid things to get through the game. But it really wasn't too much of like a physical type. And then you got Kingdom Hearts. Now that Kingdom Hearts 3, he's in that game, and I believe he's showing that he has a little bit more strength because he has armor plate, he has armor things that he can use, and he can have different weapons and like rings attached and withhold potions. So if you were to go from the Kingdom Hearts Sulley between the movie Sulley or the game Sulley, I feel like you have like either you're tipping it one way or another. Like, same thing with Shrek. Like, if you go based off the movies, yeah, if you just go based off movies, he has very limited feats through the movies. But if you go into the games and stuff, his feats wide. So if we were to ever, actually get a fight going, like, yeah, we're going to get Sulley and Shrek in this universe, we're going to put them in an MMA cage and just watch them wail on each other.
Duke them out,
We'll get Logan Paul on there. He's starting to get mad stuff, ain't he?
Oh yeah, he's good at that.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Announcer right in between them.
Oh yeah, real good. I'll just tell Shrek to just deck him in the side of the head. But we're not promoting violence here, kids.
I will say that we will exclude Shrek's killer instant kills for like his farts, just because it is known that other monsters and other people have resisted such a thing, and monsters in the Monster Inc. Incorporated often smell very bad to humans. So it is also relatively in that lane that you'd assume that Sulley himself would not be affected by Shrek's gas. But I can say he does have potions, Shrek does, where he can make himself invulnerable, enhance his speed, his strength. He can boost up his super meter, which would allow him to unleash his deadly farts. But he can also just increase his ogre's strength, his speed, and dexterity. Shrek, on the other hand, has also taken on about 6 to 7 knights at one time, dodged all of their blades, and was able to throw them around. He perceived that before it even happened. Now, this is a calc for precognition, but a chain was also fired at him from behind. He had enough time to recognize it, hear it, turn around to break his own restraints. Now, I think that's a big indication of what him and Sulley could be able to accomplish. Sulley has greater strength feats, while Shrek himself has better speed and dexterity, depending on what you go with. Because Shrek can pick himself up with one arm and move around just like Sulley can. So it's going to come down to who has the better techniques to be able to put each other down. So it would be interesting to see.
Yeah. So, on that note, I'd love to say that so far this episode has gone lovely. I haven't stuttered it at once. And, okay, yeah, just say it and then instantly stutter. Ain't that just a screw up?
It's because you pointed it out. This is a great episode.
Oh, it's lovely. But yeah, I 100% agree with Corban on the fact of, yeah, Shrek has him blown out of the water on dexterity, well, with like precognition and ideas and fighting. Wow, because Sulley has never been really shown to be a fighter. Granted, we've never seen him his childhood, so we have no idea if blah blah blah, but we do know his father was a top scarer, so he probably had some sort of wealth, maybe training, we don't know. Shrek, he was an ogre, so he had to learn. If you ever watch Shrek the Musical, which, it's on Netflix, and it is something else.
We welcome all of you to watch it if you want a good kick about it. It's like a cool tie-in. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Shrek, they did good on Shrek, but the donkey's kind of on two legs a lot, so just get used to that. But anyway, back to the whole argument, conversation on the idea of Shrek versus Sulley. I have a feeling that as Sulley would put up, from what I've learned from what we've talked about earlier today and throughout the episode, Sulley probably would be able to do a decent amount of damage to Shrek, but I honestly don't think he could put him down. Like, coming from the person who wants Sulley to win, in the idea of who would win, because you got claws, razor sharp teeth, he's grabbed a wooden paddle and snapped it in about half a second, because if you do the frame by frame, the wood plank he's holding, it just goes snap. It like one frame, next frame. And the frame is about between like a millisecond and a half second. So if you think about that, he has some speed to his moves. That's why I gave him dexterity, like big dexterity points to him, because the man has control over his arms and legs and everything very well. But I don't believe he can ever truly like win in a true fight between, like, because it's shown in the movie, he's been pushed around and shoved around by an older man. Granted, the older man had crab legs, and I have no idea how he sleeps. Does he sit on his bed and just lay the legs straight out like this, or does he hang in a hammock, or
maybe he just like folds it down into like a little shell too?
That's terrifying, and I don't want to think about that. But on this,
what do you think about Sully's roar compared to Shrek's roar?
Ooh. Sully's roar has been able to shake a building next to it. Now, I have a feeling, if you look at Shrek's roar in the room, the walls and stuff aren't moving. There's posters on the wall, and they're not shaking like you'd think the walls would, but they're waving from the air being blown through.
Yes.
I have a feeling he might have a better force, but I have a feeling Sully's may have a better base to it to be able to put sound waves out enough to shake it. Now, if you look at sperm whales, they make whistles and clicks, but those whistles are strong enough, they're able to vibrate your organs and blow up, and like pop your organs, like party balloons with a needle. Now, and those are through the water, which means sound waves travel even faster. But if you were to put Sully's up and it was shaking a house, and that was him in his, that was his teenage years, because it was during the competition at the end of the movie. And it was shaking the room next to him, which, mind you, his room was here. Randall's room was here. How did it shake enough to go the whole way across and shake the other room? I watched the movie so many times, and I just now thought of that.
Mind you, we'll bring up a map on the screen so you know what we're talking about, just so you can get the idea of how massive this roar actually is. Because Shrek's biggest feat for his roars are being able to blow people away and shatter windows. So I would give that to Sulley on this one. He definitely has the stronger and more aggressive roar.
Yeah.
The question is, would that fear that people experience from Sulley's roar affect Shrek in any way?
I don't know, because Shrek has been able to be shown to not be very scared of things. For Pete's sakes, he met in the Halloween special, he met Ghost Lord Farquaad, and was more or less worried about losing Fiona than being afraid of the ghost that's flying around and above him, being like, ha ha ha, I've made that stone dragon come alive. Yes. And he's like, cool, can I have my wife back? Like, I have a feeling Sully's roar is more or less him being terrifying, because if you were to scare, like walk up to a monster and yell, it doesn't really scare them as much as it impresses them.
Yes.
So do you think that Shrek would be not perturbed on it, or do you think he'd be more surprised? I have a feeling he'd be more surprised in the fact that someone has a bigger roar than he does.
I think Shrek would actually be impressed and actually want, like, in case they were in an actual fight scenario, I think he'd actually want to put Sulley to the test, because if you see, Shrek's only person that he's found as his equal is going to be Fiona, and he's still stronger. Shrek's always looking for a stronger opponent. He's happy being by himself, but it's shown he always has that need and that wanting to have someone he can be head-to-head with. That's why his wife Fiona is a master martial artist, because he loves to have someone on his level as an equal, which I think would be a really good matchup between them.
Yeah. I will say this, like, you saying he wants to find someone bigger, does that just make Shrek the giant, fat, green Saitama?
Basically, I can't prove you wrong on that one.
He is a big, fat, green, ogre-ish Saitama. They're both bald.
Shrek has pretty much put everyone out in one hit, basically. Except Fiona, but yes.
Yeah, and then in the one movie, the fourth one, Rumpelstiltskin, worst one, don't watch it, not worth it. It's bad, but it's one of those movies that they're like, crap, we need to make more money, but we're running out of ideas. Get the Shrek horse out, let's feed some more. But in that movie, he's been able to scare with his roar Rumpelstiltskin, which is a crazed maniac, and he's managed to just walk in a room, and when he was powerless, when Rumpelstiltskin was powerless, he scared him. He physically, mentally scarred that man, like, to the point to where he's just like, okay, what do you want? Let's get this worked out. Don't rip me apart, please. The only thing I see Sulley being able to do, I see him being able to pierce his skin, because as strong as Shrek is, his buttocks, in the scientific term, gluteus maximus, has been pierced by a normal medieval arrow, which most of the time either iron tipped, some of them were tin tipped if they wanted to fly faster, but through the arrow, what it looked like it was fired, and most through the bow when it was like fired, it looked more like a normal iron broadhead arrow. So if that can pierce through his skin, and Sully's been able to scratch through, he's been able to scratch 2-inch gouges in the wooden walls before. He's been able to, when you look at in the movie, the first movie, when he's pushing Mike Wazowski on this giant pile of furniture that they've packed up, which, with the TV, mind you, and it's still on, so how is that TV being powered? But he was pushing, and you could see little claw marks from his feet digging into the ground, and those are just from him pushing that. So imagine if he were to actually, like, curl them up and dig them into, like, almost like a cat.
I do agree with you. I will say for the audience here that the continuity between Shrek's durability can become a question, because Puss in Boots, from the movie, his nails are shown to be sharp enough to cut glass with ease, but could never actually penetrate Shrek's skin. But in the first movie, it was shown that he's also had an arrow implanted in them. So it would be up to you, the audience, to decide whether or not you think Shrek would have that durability. But even then, Sully's claws, I think, are just too sharp for Shrek to be able to handle. So it makes it more of an even basis. But I do think Shrek has the speed and dexterity to be able to avoid most of those blows. But yes, Sully, by all means, is stronger than Shrek. I do agree with that. I think it's an even basis here. What do you think?
I 100% agree on that. Not just because Sully's on my team over here, but because Shrek, the man, is, like I said before, an absolute unit in the idea of moving around, precognition, being able to outdo his opponents. I just think Sully might get a few good hits on him, but never truly, like, just get a multiple amount of blows. If Sully gets one good cut to the throat, it could be over. But it all matters on, because if you look at Shrek, how his head is proportionate, his head, it doesn't really show he has much of a neck. So that means his head is real low, which means his throat is pronounced. So, which means if he could get a deep enough cut into his throat, one thing, or straight up just manage to punch him there. I'm sorry, but a punch to the throat, and how strong Sully is, a punch to the throat, you're breaking a windpipe there. It's not bones you're worrying about breaking, or skin. You're worried about breaking the very fragile, what's it called?
The
cartilage that is your windpipe. By all means, you better hope you don't, for Pete's sake, you could walk in your house, fall over, land on a chair, and right there you go. But, deaths aside, I just think Sully might have the idea of, if he can get a few swipes on him, if he hits him in the right areas in a good enough deal of damage, he could put Shrek down for the count. But I don't know if Shrek would give him the chance to. I have a feeling, because if you ever watch Sully move around, he's not too nimble. While Shrek, the man, it might as well be Twinkle Toes over there dancing around.
I would agree with that, yes. But Shrek is also, even though he's insane for his speed, his dexterity, and his combat ability, he's never been shown to go all out on his opponent. Never once has he gone all out on his opponent. He's too afraid that he will hurt them. Now, that's just my speculation, and from what I've seen from the movies of him actually combating different people, it never seems like he wants that fight. So Sully might actually be able to get those swipes in, depending on if either of them are enraged. Now, enraged is a different basis. They'd get higher in strength, higher in dexterity, etc. I think it's mainly going to come down to the environment. I know Sully and Shrek both have similar jumping feats. They have really powerful legs. They can skyrocket themselves at least 30 to 40 feet in the air, from what I have seen.
Yeah.
So the speed between the two is really going to come into question, because even if Sully isn't fast enough, that bulky, that thin fur might actually dull some of Shrek's hits.
Oh, never thought of that. I never thought of that. Because Sully, he's been, if you look in the prequel movie, when he's a teenager, the one guy, his name is Squiggles or something like that, Squibbles, whatever his name is, he buries his face in the fur, which means that fur has to be probably, I'd say, at least, with how big he is, at least 7 or 8 inches thick. And it's shown that they had, when they animated, they had to bring up a whole new software to animate his fur. So imagine how dense that fur is, like by amounts of hair, because just on the top of a human's head, there's granted about 100,000 hair follicles just there, and you got an entire Sullivan, 7'9", almost 1,000 pounds, Sullivan standing there with God knows how much fur. And if he has them in the right areas, I say he could, like you said, dull a lot of Shrek's punches. Now Shrek, on the other hand, he does wear a leather and cloth tunic, but it only really protects his top area. And if it's just leather is very easily cut if you have very sharp tools. Like even a dull blade will cut leather, just not very cleanly. But what I'm trying to say here is that if he gets him in the right spots, he could bleed to death.
I will say that Shrek does have other pieces than his normal iteration as well. He does have his knight's armor, which may protect him the tiniest margin, but up against a beast such as known as Sullivan, it may be it may dull Shrek's speed a little bit and his dexterity, but he may take that for more durability because he sees what Sullivan is capable of. Do you think that Sullivan's tail might give him any advantage, or his spikes?
I say Ice actually might be able to completely blow Shrek's normal medieval steel armor, which, mind you, I want to know where he got that armor. I'll take that, please, thank you. But from what Sulley has been able to show, he's been able to show that he's been able to dent steel with his punches. Do you think, like, normal maces and stuff back then, they were made for blunt damage, bruising, breaking bones, collapsing lungs? Do you think he would be able to dent the armor and hurt Shrek from the inside? Because that's what maces and everything were made to do. They're made to turn your armor against you by making...
Do you think he would be able to dent the armor as long as... Because he's been tail swiped by a dragon in that armor.
Yeah.
And it hasn't cracked or dented it. But Sullivan arguably is stronger than that dragon. I think we can all agree on that.
Dragon's pretty strong, but we really, for Pete's sakes, when they went to fly through the air to chase after them in the first movie, in the first Shrek movie, it flew into the air and then was stopped like that by a chain and a sword. That thing couldn't have been using too much thrust to get off the ground.
And mind you, that dragon weighs approximately 3,000 pounds from the game, which we can put the screenshot up there for you guys so you can see the accurate measurement of that dragon's weight. Now, the dragon we're speaking of specifically is Donkey's wife at the time. Speaking of Donkey's wife, let's go to their kids for a second. Because Shrek's durability, he's taken a full-blown fire blast from them. Them fire blasts have been known to melt metal, and it's been known to set anything ablaze. Shrek got minor scarring and minor scratches. He looked annoyed, but he was barely even phased by that attack.
Yeah, for Pete's sakes, all he did was he went like this. He just wiped off the blackness from it, almost like a weird type of Toon Force type deal.
Yes.
But I don't think he has true Toon Force. Keep an eye out for Toon Force users. You might see them later season. But I just seriously think that if it was hand-to-hand combat, Shrek would come up the winner. But if you allowed for claws to be used, whichever spikes, with the spikes, we never talked about them yet. The spikes going along Sully's back. If he were to flip and land down, I'm pretty sure, because if you look at them, they look exactly like the spikes in the back of crocodiles, which they are known to be bone.
Yes.
So I believe that if he were to get him down, knocked out, and land straight up the whole way on top of him, which he can get most of his body. If you were to include his tail the whole way up, I'm pretty sure it's probably close to almost 8.5 feet, including the tail. So if you were to jump up, land on him, he might be able to deal a death blow to him.
Yeah, or a significant amount of damage.
Yeah.
Do you think Sully's night vision, in terms of if they ever fought at night, and his beast-like lion-esque appearance and his fur would cloak him and be able to, like, change the tides in his favor?
I believe so, because even though Shrek lives in a swamp and everything, he's an ogre, mind you, but he's never been able to show to really see in the dark. For Pete's sake, he had to use a torch to walk around the thing, so he can't see very well in the dark. But Sulley, on the other hand, was able to traverse through a rafter system in a little girl's camp thing. We're not going to go into why he's in a camp thing. We're actually going to go into before we get flagged or something. But we're going to see, he was a summer camp thing, and he was hopping around through there. Mind you, that man weighs probably, and the same thing, like I said before, when he was a kid, that man probably weighs 500-600 pounds, and he's hopping through rafter systems when there's policemen and park rangers shining flashlights around looking for him, and he's just, him and Mike Wazowski just up in the rafters, having fun, not making a single thing, hops down, shakes the entire floorboard, and scares multiple adults, and then manages to, on the other side of their magic doors, they have, manages the screams that he generated in the amount of fear, powered canisters that weren't even attached to the system that fills the canisters. So, if you were to think about it, would that mean his thing is so scary it breaks the laws of physics?
I would think essentially yes, but in terms of that roar, I think it won't put too much damage onto Shrek. Because going back to Sulley is able to deaden how people hear him. Like, he sometimes strangely is very silent. But to even this out for Shrek mainly, Shrek heard a person snapping his sign from miles away. Now, mind you, this is before he took his earwax out. So his hearing is already deadened. So it may even the playing field between them.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that the idea that Shrek's hearing may outdo Sully's evasiveness through the darkness. Almost like an idea like Spider-Man versus Batman.
Yes.
As quickly and as nimble Spider-Man is, even Batman himself has been able to train to have an idea of in the darkness by using hearing and his other senses that were heightened during training. So I have a feeling that maybe Shrek could do the same thing as long as he has an idea, because all Sully would have to do is just like hit something and make it to where it sounds like he's here, but he's over there. But he's here and there, like as long as he keeps some sort of something on, like if he were to break a rafter, he could have a piece of wood and chuck it and maybe catch Shrek off guard. But
Yes.
we could never know unless this series gets an actual following, and we could pay an animator to animate a lovely fight, which could be really nice due to the fact of, because then we could, instead of letting you, the audience, decide, we can show you what we believe and see if you agree. Now, at this moment, you're only going to be able to see if you agree, disagree with us in our findings, and we are encouraged 100%, go out, look out, see if you find any more information about these two characters, put them in the comment system, find out if one person might have an upper edge on the other, and I believe this has been a good episode.
I would wholeheartedly agree. This has been a great episode.
Yeah, like we've kept a good, calm idea, and we've been really good at talking with you guys on the other side of the screen, and like keeping a good rendition, and for Pete's sakes, going to a certain store and going to buy a fire pit, but then found a flower pot that basically does the same thing for about $15 cheaper.
Yeah, for a flower pot, it looks pretty good for a fire.
Oh,
right?
no, yeah, not bad. Honestly, it kind of gives that nice glow, hence the Fireside Chat. So I think this has been a good episode, and this is a place where we could end it.
All right, I'd be fine to end it. Keep in mind for the sneak peek, though, we'll have something coming for you for the next one.
We may or may not have two lovely fire ladies from both alien worlds or other dimensions coming soon. Very hot episode to begin the series with.
I would fairly agree to that, yes. And they both are of royalty, if that gives you any of a hint. Let's see if you guys can guess it in the comments.
We will see you guys in the next Fireside Chat.